So Steve and I and Ian were talking.
Oh,
yes,
Lord.
we do.
We were talking before the show. So I don't know if we told you guys, but we, because of the crazy politics and possible tariffs and all this stuff, we decided that we were going to get new computers that we need to run the SGU, right? We were using collectively probably about 7 to 10 computers to do everything that we do. So we thought we'll take our oldest ones and we'll replace them and we'll get some new computers. We're PC based, and we did the research. It was Thanksgiving, Black Friday. I started, setting up the whole thing, trying to buy some stuff that was on sale. Long story short, we were well aware that NVIDIA, who makes very good graphics chips, that they were coming out with their RTX 50, right? So right now you can get the RTX 40 series, like 4070, 4080, 4090. Very good, very, very good GPU. But if you heard the announcement that NVIDIA did, during that expo a couple weeks ago, their new card supposedly is fantastic. I've been watching videos and reading benchmarks. It's better. It's not remarkably better. It's got a couple of things about it that I think are really interesting. First off, the baseline is if you compare a 4080 to a 5080, it's about 10% better, right? Mm-hmm. I think the 5090 has another 5 or 6% on top of that. Yeah. Not that much. It's not, in my opinion, unless you have money to throw away, don't get the 5090 because you're not going to get that much out of it.
Unless you're mining crypto or something.
Yeah, I mean that in the long term, that probably would be a benefit. So the idea here is it worth thinking about swapping these cards out? So I bought 3 cards. I have until January 31st to initiate a return on Amazon, and the new cards happen to be coming out on January 31st. So I'm thinking about buying us the new cards, returning the ones that we bought, which is perfectly legit, and saving a few $100 on each card, which collectively we'll probably save around $600, which is remarkable, thinking that the new cards are better and less expensive than the previous gen.
That's the nature of computer technology for the last 50 years.
Yeah.
So better, cheaper, faster.
I'm asking you if there's anybody in the audience that has a legit opinion or a knowledge about the new cards versus the old ones. We're not doing anything other than NVIDIA.
NVIDIA, by the way, just lost $600 billion worth of value as a company because of the whole DeepSeek situation, which is interesting.
That brings up a lot of interesting things to talk about. But let me just finish the quick thought. Yeah. So if you do have any information, let us know in the chat or email us at info@theskepticsguide.org. I always like to crowdsource stuff like this because there's typically people that have done more research than me out there.
Yeah, because we're a bit of a nerdy group of people.
Oh, my God. I mean,
there's some computer nerds out there.
We get downright ridiculously excited when it's not that often that you get to buy a new computer and we hand build everything ourselves. It's super exciting. It's fun to do. It's a really fun thing.
Yeah, because you buy a computer and it slowly degrades over time.
Yeah.
Not just because, even if it's...
Just like we do.
It's just that the world advances, the software is more and more demanding. You need more and more of everything, and you're flatlined pretty much on your computer functionality. And then I don't know if bloat sets in or whatever. Like, I mean, how often? I know you should probably do a fresh install of Windows every now and then, but that's a huge pain in the ass. So it just So then when you get to that point where you're ready to bump up again, it is exciting. You need to hit the reset button. You get back to. And we've been doing this now for so many years. It's like it's a cycle that we've been going through.
Yeah. So somebody said that they listened to. Some reviewers and said that they were underwhelmed by the 5080. My question is, if it legitimately is 10% better, that's not like, oh my God, but it's not insignificant, being that we're going to use these computers for 5 years, right? That's basically 4 to 5 years is when we decide to retire an older computer. Because you do want to keep up with the latest tech, motherboards and the GPUs and everything. So I'm still thinking about doing it. I mean, largely because I can, right? I can return them, and I can.
Well, they're cheaper.
Yeah, they're less expensive.
They're not going to be worse, right, than the 40 series.
Nope. Yeah, and the thing is, they do have the AI component in there, which is questionable of what it is going to be able to do once programs start to take advantage of that.
Yeah. So it's about future-proofing too, a little bit.
I think so.
Yeah.
I mean, it could just be all hype though. But my God, that this company has never failed me in the past. Like, they do make excellent hardware. So I'm not worried about that. Somebody said 50 series bring improvements, but at the cost of using more power. Some good new tech, but only for gaming.
That might be true.
Only for gaming, like not for video editing or anything like that, I wonder.
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
No, I mean, look, it's I'm not going to lie.
We don't do any video games.
I'm not going to lie. You could say, I'm not going to lie. It's not like I don't play video games on my work computer. I mean, why the hell wouldn't I?
We don't use the studio computers for video games.
No.
That's true.
No, we did use them for VR, though.
That was part of a conference, though.
If you say so.
And it might be part of
It was.
So does this count as our cold open?
I guess so.
Yeah,
That's right, because today is Wednesday, January 29th of 2025, the year of our Lord. Today we're going to be talking about, there's a few more executive orders seeming to pop out every day.
Popping out of every orifice.
Yeah, one big one. RFK hearing is happening right now. So we might watch some of that. There's a TikTok video I have somebody sent us about the NIH, a little inside baseball. What does ChatGPT know?
Only Jesus knows.
Holy, that maybe DeepSeek knows better. I don't know. And then we'll do some TikToks. All right. There we go. That's what we're doing today. Anyway, back to our shenanigans.
All right. So
I have some fun shenanigans, and then we can get into deeper stuff.
Sure.
What do you want to talk about?
Let's talk about what Steve suggested a little bit here about,
Which?
About
the DeepSeek.
DeepSeek.
We were talking about it on the show tonight.
Yeah, but we
could
give a little
we could
bit.
pregame it a little bit. Yeah.
So DeepSeek is
I wrote about it on my blog yesterday.
I wrote about it when
I wrote about it.
So DeepSeek, in brief, it's a company from China that open sourced their LLM, right? Their basically version of ChatGPT, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of these LLMs out there now. Now it's significant though, because it's very inexpensive to get your hands on this. I mean, I think it's like an order of magnitude less expensive, right?
It cost, they said $18 million to train it. They didn't say about the pre-training cost, but they said training it cost $18 million versus, say, for ChatGPT 4, it cost over $100 million. And they're saying that ChatGPT 5 will cost over $1 billion to train.
Wow.
So the American big tech companies, trying to improve AI, their approach has been bigger and more expensive, right? So each version of ChatGPT has cost more money, and the next one, we're getting to that steep part of the curve. It's going to go from $100 million to $1 billion. So this Chinese company, the DeepSeek is the product, not the name of the company. What's the name of the company?
What is it?
Something else.
Yes.
And
I'll look it up.
we'll look it up. But they went the other way. So they said, we want to see if we could do the same performance, but much cheaper.
Yep.
And
so they basically came at a different approach, right?
So there's two aspects to that. One is just the chips you need to do it. So this company has been acquiring
High Flyer. It's a hedge fund, right?
Yeah, it was a hedge fund manager who's running the company, who they've been sort of hoarding their NVIDIA chips, their high-end NVIDIA chips. Yeah. But they did it with a lot of like the lower end commercially available NVIDIA chips, not the super high end
A1s or something like
yeah,
that?
so the cost of the chips was a lot less, and then the whole process was a lot more efficient. So they basically did it for 18 mil. So that brings it way down. That sort of brings it down to the level you might think of where some startup or some smaller companies can get into it. You don't have to be one of the tech giants to do cutting edge AI.
But it doesn't cost, if a company wanted to buy it and have their own version running and they wanted to do it full bore, it wouldn't be that expensive for them to set it all up and have it be like an internal resource for their company. Now again, if you are using the downloaded code,
which I have, and I have it on my laptop.
And if you check the code and make sure that it's not sending information to anyone you don't want to, then you could have a very secure.
But if you check the code, that's a big if.
Well, you could get ChatGPT to read the code for you. Now, how do we know that these AIs aren't in collusion?
That's true.
So, yeah, speaking of that, though, like the bigger concept of how do we know these AIs are not getting out of control? That's obviously been one of the big red flag sort of warning signs of AI. How could we lose control of our own AI? So right now, there are large language models that can make clones of themselves.
Yeah, I'm talking about this tonight.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. And they could also, there are other large language models that when they gave it certain tasks to do, they modified their own code in unexpected ways in order to meet the task parameters.
Yep.
They basically changed the parameters in order to meet them rather than, so.
Doesn't sound like every movie that goes
Yeah,
bad.
right. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, but so the question is this like emergent behavior? That
was emergent behavior because by definition, it wasn't something explicitly that it was designed to do. It's more like just solve this problem, and it found a way to do it by doing something unexpected and modifying its own code. So, I mean, I don't think we're at a danger level now, but it's again this sort of this is the part of the movie where you're getting the foreshadowing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Maybe, right? So is this foreshadowing for like AI getting really out of control?
So here, let me set
Or
the
is this
scene.
just a panic that?
So in the movie, the two programmers get up and they're like, "All right, Fred, I'll see you tomorrow. Yeah, check it out. I'll see you later, man. Have a good night." And then the camera slowly pans over to the screen, and then you see like,
unexpectedly making noise.
Yeah, like for no reason. When computers show shit on the screen,
it has to have an accompaniment sound.
Make noise. So the computer is like thinking by itself, and then the dramatic swell happens, and then we see these guys driving home, not knowing that this thing started to multiply itself, and when they wake up tomorrow, it's a strange new world.
It's taking over the world.
I love that.
Yeah,
I think it's so interesting. But it's happening, Steve. It's happening to us right now.
Right. So I think I could be convinced of one of two sort of visions of this. Just thinking about like 20 years from now, we will look back and go, "Gee, we were slowly handing the world over to AI. I didn't realize it." Yeah. Or we could think, "Oh, that was just like a naive panic. Of course, it didn't take over the world. It was silly." Right? Those are both plausible outcomes.
They are,
in my opinion.
But what we do know, there's facts though. What we do know is governments. Not all, like some are moving faster than others, but most governments out there, they haven't even caught up to the earliest versions of artificial intelligence. And, and because artificial intelligence companies move so quickly and they can iterate and put out significant upgrades year to year, they're probably constantly shuffling them out.
Yeah.
There's no way that regulation is going to keep up with this. Just no way. I mean,
it's not. And well, in the U.S., it's going in the wrong direction. So basically, the tech bros, the tech billionaires, are now cozying up to the government, to the Trump and the federal government, specifically and explicitly, so that they are not regulated, and so that AI is not regulated.
Yeah,
they think we should just trust them to do it, and they don't want any regulation. And that's going to be the next 4 years in the U.S., which could be a pretty critical 4 years, right?
Yeah.
So, I don't think we can count on there being intelligent, thoughtful, detailed, technocratic, regulation of AI anytime soon. So, it's a huge, massive experiment, in my opinion.
Somebody asked... Stargate is just a bunch of hooey, right? So we talked about this. Look, nobody on our level, with our level of access to information, can empirically say it is or it isn't. But this is what, this is what's being passed around, and it seems legitimate, right? We have several incredibly wealthy companies. One of them is OpenAI. And a few other companies are heavily investing with I guess outside investments as well, but all private investments into this Stargate project. So what we do know is that they have over a year ago they started building the data center needed for the project. And essentially what the project is that they're going to initial spend will be $400 billion. And I have to dramatically pause there because that is a massive, massive amount of money. 400 billion freaking US dollars to start up this company. They're going to have 100,000 employees, and they are going to be the absolute flagship artificial intelligence development company in the world, specifically to beat out other countries like China to get grabbing the first and most important gold.
And I think that's part of why somebody said like there's a lot of deep seek panic out there. I agree. There's a lot of panic about there, but there's a couple legitimate things of concern. One is up until now, China has mostly been following the U.S. AI industry. They are copying, they're trying to keep up. This is the first time that they've demonstrated some actual innovation that that steps in front of the U.S. AI industry. So that's a shift in the balance of power right there. It's absolutely a shift. And the other thing is the dramatic decrease in price does also allow for a lot of proliferation. If we're now, it was like with CRISPR's great. Yeah. CRISPR's awesome. But it also means small labs can do genetic engineering, which is good if everyone is doing it for research and for the betterment of mankind and the world, right? But we don't live in a world where we can count on everyone, having good intentions. And so there is certainly legitimate reason to be worried about the fact at the same time that genetic engineering is now so much cheaper, faster, easier, et cetera. I think, so with AI, it's the same thing. It's like, okay, in order to get AI more powerful, you need billions of dollars in huge companies and blah, blah, blah. So, it's like that kind of corrals it, keeps it, that's a guardrail in and of itself. Now, that guardrail is, if that's largely going away, then that certainly raises the concerns about the potential proliferation of AI that's just either nefarious or just uncontrolled or just reckless or whatever. So that's, I think, the legitimate reasons for concern over what this DeepSeek innovation means. Now, having said that, I think we should absolutely be investing billions of dollars in AI. I just would like to see it done within a safe framework. Same thing like with genetic engineering. It's like I want to see CRISPR and other genetic manipulation, genetic engineering advances made, but within a framework of ethical, responsible, safe, research and development, and not just this. We're going to do it without any constraints. We get the government off our back. We just trust us. We're not going to do anything stupid, right? But really, we're going to trust the tech industry not to do anything stupid. Please.
I mean, they dropped the source code, right? It's in the public domain, as someone just said, and
it's true. It's open. It's open.
Okay, so let's just run through a couple of obvious scenarios here. Yep, just like CRISPR, they drop it. Now companies that normally would not even have a hint or ability to do anything with smart programmers or people that are maybe young in the career that don't have the full skill set, they start seeing it, understanding how it works, how they built it, and then they start doing specific things with it. And it all of a sudden, it makes a lot of people around the world be able to iterate artificial intelligence software that they normally wouldn't have a chance of touching. So just like CRISPR, depending on the wielder, what can it do, right? Yeah. Like some people, listen, for 100% sure, some people are going to take this software and they're going to use it to scam people and to hack people.
Yeah, I think this is where science fiction, I think, gets in our way. Because when people hear about the dangers of AI, they think Colossus, they think the Terminator, the Matrix, right? They think about all these sci-fi manifestations, the Cylons, of AI taking over the world or becoming killer robots or whatever. Yeah. That's not really the concern. Not that that's not theoretically possible if we are ridiculously stupid and irresponsible. But
which I think we are, Steve.
But the thing is, maybe, but
Maybe.
but it's a little bit easier to identify and prevent things like don't build an autonomous AI killer robot, killer soldier
that has deadly weaponry.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So that's like don't build the Cylons. That's I think we sort of internalized that that bit of wisdom. But what we're really talking about not that. It's not Cylons. It's not what's the Terminator one?
Terminator?
The Terminator AI that takes over.
Skynet.
Skynet. Yeah, it's not Skynet. What we're talking about is we are potentially handing a really convenient tool of oppression to dictators, right? And then again, everywhere along the spectrum, government, whether the most benign democratic governments, the most horrible authoritarian repressive governments, everywhere along the spectrum, you're going to have powerful governments who have a tool that they could use, maybe even convincing themselves it's not a bad thing for the manipulation of the public, right? Like even as somebody pointed out and has been pointed out, the DeepSeek, you try asking it about Tiananmen Square. That information is not in there.
That's not true. I just asked it. I have DeepSeek on my laptop.
Yeah, what did it say?
It says Tiananmen Square protests were a series of student-led demonstrations and pro-democracy movements that began on April 1989. It goes through a whole thing.
I wonder if that's a recent change.
It is. I agree. It is a recent change.
Yeah, because initially it just said we can't talk about that.
Whoa.
Right, but there is also it kind of not like I'm not going to talk about it because the CCP won't let me. It's like they're not trained on it.
But that's trained on it is a really subtle way of control of rewriting history.
But could be potentially benefit of the doubt. I don't want to fully, but a little.
You're right. It
could be not trained on data because people are asking what does Xi Jinping look like? And the meme is Winnie the Pooh. And in China, you're not allowed to say that, so we might get TikTok. Sorry, TikTok. But so it's I don't know. You could make the argument totally.
The thing is, it's easy to do that. It's easy to put your thumb on the scale of public discourse to rewrite history. And that's sort of a minor thing, not that minor, but the Tiananmen Square thing. It was reliably reported and just showed, listen, this is what I asked it, this is what it said. Yeah. I wonder if they changed that.
They might have,
in reaction to that, since that was the go-to example, they sort of took that away. Mm-hmm. But and even if there isn't any of that going on, it's certainly very easy and it's very possible to do that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
totally.
So. So now we have so AI could make us vulnerable to government oppression, right? In a way that is automated and powerful and pervasive. And, it's like the difference between lying and gaslighting.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Telling somebody a lie is harmful, but it's isolated. But gaslighting somebody, implies that you are completely changing their view of reality to make them think something that's not true, either that they're crazy or whatever. So this sort of raises the stakes in terms of as far as that's going. I think we're already seeing the negative effect of, the ability to gaslight massive segments of the population through social media campaigns, through this sort of thing, and now we're just going to make it all the more easier.
Yeah.
So to me that's the big concern, not Skynet.
Yeah.
But also there's a lot of vulnerabilities in there too. Like, AI is, is a powerful tool, but the more control we cede to it for certain things, with that power becomes vulnerability, right? Because now then that could be manipulated.
This is a good one. I was thinking this too. With the Chinese doing it so cheaply, is that just proof that US AI companies have been overcharging? It's a bubble, and when it bursts, it's going to be detrimental to the economy. That's
the stock market concern. That's why that tumbled 3% or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, OpenAI, Altman, right?
Sam Altman,
said, I heard an interview with him where he was talking about how much they charge and how are they making their money and they're having money problems or anything. And Sam Altman admitted that sales have been so profoundly good that they absolutely don't have a money problem, and he doesn't need to
sales of what?
Sales of people buying their services.
Which services?
OpenAI.
OpenAI services.
ChatGPT.
Mostly ChatGPT.
Yeah.
Sure.
Well, we'll see.
He doesn't need investment. He doesn't need all that because the company's generating a shit ton of money. Now, to answer your question though, apparently, it seems like what we've learned is that most other AI companies, like it takes a ton of money and an incredible amount of manpower in order to build it and to train it with all the information that you have to, because it's a painstaking process to train these LLMs. But the Chinese company figured out a very inexpensive way to do it, and we didn't mention this. I think we did on the show. The bottom line is they can pack in all of that data that you need to store to run an LLM in a much smaller space than the way that OpenAI does it, which is it's a massive innovation in the way that they're managing their data, which is awesome. It's a really cool thing that they came up with. I don't know the particulars, but in order for them to do that, where you could run it on your freaking computer, I mean that's a big deal, man.
I will say the user experience though of OpenAI on the web is much better than the DeepSeek one. It's it's much glitchier.
Can you talk to this by any way?
If you have the app, but I couldn't get the app to work. So many people were downloading it. It was like I was freaking out.
I'm not actually downloading that because that is to me like
I don't give a fuck. I don't care. I'm already too far deep into it.
Right, and that's the problem. All right, so we will talk more about this on the SGU. We have a lot of AI stuff on the next episode coming out Saturday. And Ian,
let's look at the next topic. Some people were talking about it. We could look at the RFK hearing if we want to shoot ourselves in the face.
Let's do that, but it's going to be boring. Just briefly, let's just see what's going on.
See what's going on right now. There's some other fun stuff that we can actually talk about, and maybe some fun stuff. Let me see. Oh, okay. It actually ended, but here I have a clip. That we can look at instead. Excuse me. So this is somebody sent it to us on our Discord. Thank you for doing that. It's a clip on TikTok, on Twitch rather.
So I'm asking you, yes or no, Mr. Kennedy. Did you say that COVID-19 was a genetically engineered bioweapon that targets black and white people, but spared Ashkenazi Jews and Chinese people?
I didn't say it was deliberately targeted. I just quoted an NIH-funded and NIH-published study.
Did you say that it targets black and white people but spared Ashkenazi Jews?
I quoted a study, Your Honor. I quoted an NIH study that showed that.
I'll take that as a yes. I have to move on. I have to move on. Did you say that?
Yeah, so I know that was that part.
As if any of that's going to prevent this.
He didn't just quote a study. He's interpreting the study, which what he does is he takes some basic science study, then he leaps 3 or 4 steps of logic to some paranoid conspiracy conclusion. Then he says, I'm just quoting the study. Bullshit. You're inserting your own conspiracy nonsense into a study that, your narrative into... and I've seen he does this consistently. I've seen him do this over and over again. Yeah. There's often this little kernel somewhere that he's basing it on, but it's not something that actually supports the narrative bullshit that he's selling.
Right.
I mean, and also, there's so much data on this guy. It's not like some up and coming person who we don't know that much about. We know all about him. We know what he thinks on all the important topics.
He's been very open and public about it for decades.
Now, he'll be dodgy when he's sitting in front of Congress and all that stuff, and you hear him interview, and he'll say, I'm not an anti-vaxxer.
He's 100% an anti-vaxxer.
He's a freaking anti-vaxxer. So he's obscuring reality deliberately. He knows what he's doing. And also, look, I can't help it. I'm a human. I can't get past his aesthetic. I can't get past his whole thing. Everything about him makes me uncomfortable. So on a perception level, what he's saying, how he's saying it, the way he looks, the way he talks, the things he says are true, the things he says are not true, all of it, to me, is like one of the biggest red flags I've ever seen in my life. Yet here we are, Steve.
Yeah.
It's just, this guy's going to get in because everybody is saying yes to dear leader, and it's going to be demonstrably horrific. And there's nothing that people like us can do other than educate the few who will listen. I had a really upsetting conversation with a friend of mine on Facebook yesterday.
Why do you keep doing that?
Yeah.
This is a friend of mine. This isn't like someone. This is someone that I already respect. Someone that I really like. The history of my friendship with them, it's all been positive. I think he is a very good person. But he posted about made some political comments. I came back and, to be fair about it, I'm just going to speak my truth, right? He was demonstrably wrong on his points. And I pointed out the reality to him over and over again. I spiked it out. I'm like, this is all verifiable information. We're talking about things that are recorded in the U.S. government that took place, about what this person said, what this person did, mostly things about what actually happened. And I really thought, this is going to be different because, I'm already way on the inside with this person, and they're going to trust me because they know what I do for a living, and and it didn't penetrate at all.
Yeah.
And it really was upsetting for me because, first of all, what I said to him at one point is, look, man, we're friends. I want you to think about who you're talking to. We're friends. I care about what you think.
Mm-hmm.
And I've spent the last 20 years of my life learning how to vet information, learning how to, I have all of these red flags that I've trained myself to have them go up when I hear things that smell funny, or, then I know to look deeper. If you vet anything, you pretty quickly you can get to the original source of things. I mean, it's time consuming, but it's not impossible. And there's resources out there that make it quicker today than there were 10 years ago.
It's not, you get your internet chops up, you can usually track things back to a reliable primary source, or two or three, and you could say, all right, this is what's going on. But also it's good to get a sense of when, we'll never know what happened behind the closed doors, on the inside. This is what they're saying happened or whatever.
But what frustrates
you could also very quickly pull the carpet out from under the completely fabricated nonsense that people are spouting as if it's real,
No, I also reiterated, I don't know if he knew this, but I'm like, I don't belong to a political party. I am suspect of all politicians. I'm not on a team. I'm not rooting for a team. I'm not polluted by any of that. I mean, I just come down to, what do they say? What do they do? And are they telling the truth?
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty easy when you think of it that way. You just look at a politician and go, all right, I'm going to look up the things that they said. Are they lying? Or are they telling the truth? What are they accomplishing? What are they doing?
Who's your daddy and what does he
right,
do?
So somebody said Jay might soon regret Steve's retirement. We are going to have an SGU renaissance. I mean, to be honest with you, we're going to come out with a lot more content. We're going to try really hard to move into areas that we haven't been doing before. It's not going to all be like SGU on brand. We're going to do different things. We're going to try to.
There'll be more SGU content, but there's also going to be broader SGU content.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it's a good way to think about it.
Wider
We're still working out
audience.
the details. We're not going to say anything until it's official.
You'll know soon.
But just since people are asking about it, we talked about it on the show this week. I've been talking about it on the live stream. So I will be officially retiring at the end of June. So starting
From
July
Yale,
from
not
Yale,
the podcast.
not from my skeptical work, not from the SGU, not from all that. I'll basically be shifting to the SGU full time, 100% of the time. Yeah. End of June is the end of the academic year. So that's basically the end of my contract.
Now we get 100% access to his brain.
So Steve, are you really excited to stop doing the doctor work?
I mean, I've mixed feelings. Obviously, I spent my life studying and learning, and now it's if I'm not going to be seeing patients and practicing medicine everywhere, I have this massive store of knowledge and skills and experience that I'm not going to be using.
Yeah.
So I have to. That's I have not. That fact is not lost on me. Although I will be using that experience in my science communications, so I will be using it.
Yeah.
But the thing is, it's keeping plates spinning. There's a ton of stuff you got to keep going. You can't dabble in medicine, right? You're either doing everything you need to do to keep it up and running. You got to keep your board certifications. You have to get your CME. You got to keep your license. You got to study constantly to keep up to date.
Yep.
And then there's all the administrative stuff to do. It's constant. It's a huge thing, and so. And it's been challenging doing that and all of the SGU work at the same time. People ask legitimately, how do you do it all? It's it's a lot of fucking work.
Yeah.
I do it. I'm working every night. I'm working every weekend. I haven't had, any time off in 20 years, basically. Most of my vacations have been working vacations, right? We're combining it with SGU events. And so... I haven't been able to put as much time as I want to into the SGU and science communication.
And vacation and take, you worked your ass off. You get,
I'll be 61. People don't know if they know how old I am. I'll be 61 when I retire. That's not that young, that's a little bit maybe ahead of sooner than average, but that's, considering that I'm going to be shifting into a pretty robust, post-retirement job, that's not early.
But it's not real retirement though.
It's retirement from Yale.
Yeah, you're not going to be a doctor anymore, but you're basically going to step into.
I'll still be a doctor, and I'll probably keep my
He's a
license
doctor.
for
No,
a
you know what I
while.
mean.
I just won't be practicing. Yeah.
But you're going to step into another job that's going to occupy all your time, and you're going to probably.
It's going to be a full-time job.
Yeah, absolutely.
But the good thing is, I'm really looking forward to a couple of things.
All right, let's go.
I'm looking forward to sleeping in as long as I need to.
Yes.
Not because there are still, this is the thing. The other thing I had to decide is, as I'm getting older, it's like, first of all, how many good years do I have left?
Yeah.
And I want to do a lot of things, And so, like, I know I have colleagues who, like, they retire at 70, at 75. I'm like, shit. If I retired at 75, I'm basically done at that point.
Yeah.
I'll have no time to do anything. But also, it's just getting harder. Like when I do like my 2 weeks, I have one more 2-week inpatient service to do.
Yeah.
That's 14 days where I don't get one good night's sleep.
Yeah, that's
because I get called in the middle of the night. And so there's many mornings where, like, my alarm goes off at 6 o'clock in the morning. I really would love to sleep for another hour, but I got to get up.
And I find
And
those
that's physically hard to do.
The last 1 or 2 hours, to me, like, is the game changer for
Right.
me. If I get up very early with my kids.
So just being on my own clock and just saying, I could sleep as long as my body and my brain needs to sleep, and then start my day, that is going to be very nice.
And what else?
Also, just not having to, like, if something comes up, like we talked about this for Nauticon. Nauticon is Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Well, Sunday is
Sundays they get whatever.
more of a travel day.
It's a
but-
travel day, but still, it starts on Thursday. I could not get Thursday off from work because I have, basically maxed out my time in terms that I could carve out for doing conferences and doing stuff. I was able to take Friday off, but not Thursday. That's always a pain in the ass. Like whenever I do take time off from work in order to do a conference or a trip or whatever, it's not like that work goes away.
Yeah.
I still have to do all the work I had to do, just squeeze it into other times to make a period of time where I could do more work,
Yeah, so you're going to unshackle from an amazingly heavy, rigorous daily grind.
Yes.
Which is going to be great. I mean, it's going to give you basic.
So then
you're going
go
to
into
probably
another daily grind.
But I'll be in more control of my time. Yes, it will be work, but it'll be. But this is obviously I enjoy. I still do enjoy teaching and seeing patients, and being an academic. I enjoy all that. It's not that it's not fun. I'm definitely looking forward to not doing the administrative nonsense because like the electronic medical record stuff. That's like an endless treadmill in your inbox. Since I wrote about that today in Science-Based Medicine, because people were asked. There was an article, a commentary about we should be leveraging AI in order to reduce the EMR burden on physicians, which is contributing significantly to physician burnout.
Yes.
Thank you,
PCERAS. How would you pronounce that, Ian?
What is it?
PCERAS.
It's probably first name and then last name.
PC Arasi?
Yeah,
PCERAS.
P. Sarasi? P. Sarasi? Anyway, thank you.
Thank you. Did we miss someone, by the way, Ian?
Well, there was a super chat. Let me do one of these. There was a super chat. With that extra time, will you guys spin back up AQ6? We'll love to hear your thoughts on Silo and Nosferatu, of course.
Let's talk to these people.
We will.
Let's give them one tidbit. Yes, we are rebooting.
Season 3 of AQ6 will be starting.
Yes.
It's one of the things we can do since I'm retiring,
Right.
Because, again, we'll have time to do that. We don't have to say, what night? It's Sunday afternoon, like, what could we get together to do this? We'll be like, let's just do it during the day, when during our job. It'll be so much easier
Pierre.
to do that.
It was Pierre Sarasi.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, and I'll throw in a few comments.
Uh-oh.
I'm 56. I'll be 57 this year. As much as
You're
I'm
a baby.
Steve's younger brother, I'm a grown man.
You're a bambino.
Man. No, but the point is, I don't have the goddamn physical and intellectual stamina I used to. I would rather work
Or
during the
sexual
day.
stamina.
Well, that's true.
Hey.
I mean,
Same.
but your
Whoa.
skills increase.
Time
Yeah,
out.
So you know,
Stamina goes down, skill goes up. It
Yeah.
kind of all compensates.
comes out in the wash. So the bottom line is, like, I think that the stuff that
Randall.
we're going to do, instead of being over here and watching a sci-fi show with Bob and Steve starting at 8,
At 8
and
p.m.
getting the hell out of here at like 10 o'clock when I should have been in bed already with the kids, it's going to be like we do it in the afternoon.
In the
you know what I
afternoon,
mean?
when we're at our prime,
Yeah.
in the middle of the day, it'd be nice.
Right
So-
before 5 p.m. dinner?
very much looking forward to that.
Also, from a sleep hygiene perspective, you're not supposed to be like lights in your face and all animated and
At
shit
10 o'clock at night. I know,
night.
absolutely.
Like, you really got to avoid that, especially when you get older, because like your sleep hygiene actually really comes into play for the average person as you get older, because you could really fuck yourself.
Now, the other aspect to it is, I definitely try to work out on a regular basis and, take care of my health, but that's also very difficult. And there are sometimes I go a whole week where my planned time to squeeze in exercise just evaporates for one reason or another, either for work or for SG or whatever. So this will, I think, make it a lot easier for me to schedule times where I will be doing my own health maintenance. So I think just for my health for the next 20 years, it's going to be a lot better.
And don't worry, chat. We will stream those too. We will stream.
Yeah, no, that's
Steve
not going to happen.
working out. Okay, fine.
I have a question, Ian, about the picture-in-picture there.
Yeah.
That's Senator Langford. And
Langford.
Did he grill Kennedy too?
Not really. He's on his side. So it's we could listen to this. So I know I had this up the whole time, but we could listen to a little bit of this. Somebody else was asking about, have you had any personal experience or seen it with the Medicaid, Medicare disruption recently, Steve?
Oh, not yet. That has not percolated
Yeah.
down to my awareness yet. But we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see how that plays out.
In Connecticut, apparently, Murphy said.
I mean, the thing is, the states buffer that, right? So it's I wouldn't really feel it anyway. The issue would be that the states aren't getting the money from the federal government, but the states aren't going to instantly stop providing their services.
50% in Connecticut.
It's 50% everywhere. That's the standard.
That's
it's
the
50%.
standard. Okay.
That's what the government matches what the states spend on Medicare, Medicaid.
Gotcha.
So the states are in control of how much money that is, but the federal government matches it 50%. And in exchange for their rules and regulations to govern how that money gets spent, right?
And before I forget, guys, if you like the work that we do and appreciate the content, and you could become a patron to help us, make this transition with Steve a lot smoother, because it's we got a lot of stuff to do to try to make this all work. So go to patreon.com/Skeptics Guide.
Yeah,
Thank you, Ian.
I need a visual for that.
Yeah.
I'll make one. There's the link anyway. If anybody doesn't know. Anyway, let's move on. Maybe let's listen to this if we want to not be brain broken for a little while. I think this is a good spot. I was watching some of it, and there's a lot, but let's see.
Immediately closed down the Office of Civil Rights and Conscience Protections within HHS. There's a statement that's come out recently that he's going to reopen that office again to be able to protect the civil rights of Americans. One of the things that Javier Becerra did immediately when he came into HHS was conscience protections for medical professionals that were being compelled against their conscience to perform medical procedures that violated their conscience. Javier Becerra stepped in immediately into HHS and withdrew that and said, no, the federal government will tell you what you believe about these issues. You don't have conscience protections anymore, and refuse to protect those folks. Will you step in and say that healthcare individuals have the right of conscience again, as the federal law allows?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing that occurs to me when you ask that question is, what patient would want somebody doing a surgery on them that believes that the surgery is against their conscience, being forced to perform that? I don't know anybody who would want to have a doctor performing a surgery that the doctor is morally opposed to. Listen, I came from a family that was split on life and choice. I have cousins today who believe that abortion at any stage is equivalent to homicide. Now, there are other people who believe the opposite. But the good thing in my family that I really loved is that we were able to have those.
I mean, I think we get it.
There's
whatever. More somewhere else. I wasn't trying to do that one specifically, but I mean, what do you think about the conscientious, I guess, objectors or whatever?
I mean, this is all about abortion, right? This is about whether or not. And again, it's not really so much about the surgeons, the individual physicians, because you can't force a surgeon to do a procedure they don't want to do. And a surgeon doesn't have to be certified to do a procedure they don't want to do. It's really more about the hospital providing services for patients, right? And it's very easy to make it so that patients don't in certain areas, in certain regions, certain states don't have access even to legal services just because nobody wants to provide them.
Yeah.
So it is okay, in my opinion, to say if you are going to be a fully functional hospital and be supported by one and collect Medicaid and whatever, all that, then you have to provide certain services, and that means you cannot impose your religious beliefs on the community, right? It's really the other way around. They're concerned about the doctors being imposed on, but it's really they're imposing their religious views on the community.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Right.
And again, if it were a simple matter of you could use my colleague over here who will happily do it, then nobody would give a fuck, right? Nobody would care if it were that simple. It comes down to leveraging this religious freedom issue to basically deprive services to entire populations. That's when it becomes an issue.
Yeah, absolutely.
But whatever,
Yes.
but RFK instantly ejected and betrayed any ideological commitments he had previously in order to align himself with the Republicans who were backing his healthcare quackery. Because he's only interested in the healthcare quackery, not anything else.
Right. He did say at this one point, he's like, I am tasked with ending chronic disease, whatever that means.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm going to focus on.
Right.
He said something like, everything else is just rearranging chairs on the Titanic. I was like, what? That seems like a lot of people die
That's so
if you think
specific,
that way.
man.
Anyway,
Right.
if anybody has a timestamp to something interesting, I don't want to go through the whole thing. It's painful. And it seems like it's mostly party lines is going to be the
He's
vote.
passed.
So
He's
probably
gonna make it.
Yeah.
There's a second round of questioning, apparently, somebody said. Roughly 1 hour for Liz Warren. I mean, does she say anything particularly good question? I mean, I think she was going after him about him just trying to make money off of the whole venture,
Make money.
which,
Who does that?
I mean,
I wish they would focus more on competence. Like the Hegseth meeting, grilling was the same.
Yeah.
There's a lot of focus. Sure, his drinking and everything is relevant, but the guy fundamentally doesn't have the skill set or the knowledge or the
Right.
background or whatever
He's a Fox News host.
to do that job. That should have been the 95%er. Like, let's focus on the fact, what makes you think you are qualified to do this job? Same thing with RFK Jr. What makes you think? What gives you the hubris to think that you have the skill set and the background and the knowledge to do this job? But of course, RFK Jr., his whole career is built on hubris. His whole career is, I've, in my mind, made this thread-like connection between some selected research that I'm going to cherry pick and this massive, ridiculous conspiracy theory, and I'm right and the rest of the world can go fuck themselves and they're wrong. That's massive hubris, which of course is at the center of every guru, right?
Yeah.
Every guru charlatan, either you're a con artist or you are guilty of massive hubris. That one of those two things must be true.
Yeah.
So
They both could be true.
A couple people. Tim Tully said, "Any chance you go to Boscone, February 14 to 17? What is happening there? I don't know what that event is.
Where is it?
Is that a eclipse or something?
No.
Wait, where was it? I didn't see the.
It
oh,
passed
Tim
by.
Tully. This one. Okay.
Yeah.
Any chance you go to Boscone? What's Boscone? Whoops. 2025 is the Boston Seaport District longest running science fiction and fantasy convention.
Oh, that
New
sounds
England.
fun.
February 14th through
in
the
England.
16th. No, New England.
Oh.
New England.
Not Old England. New.
Okay.
Um,
I'm going
I
to
doubt
be.
it,
We're going to
yeah.
be covered with again. That's when I'm doing my last inpatient
yeah.
service.
Maybe
Like,
next year,
next year, sure. Then
if it still exists.
And
if Boston still exists.
Kenny Haberman, thank you very much, and I'm really sorry to hear about that. So I can't tell you how good it makes us feel to know that we helped you during a difficult
Yeah.
time like
Yeah.
that. God damn.
Okay, we can watch maybe Elizabeth Warren if we want to hear a little.
Nah,
bit
let's
of it.
just
All right,
let's just
go.
punt this
All
asshole.
All right, let's
to
do
the-
something fun.
Yeah.
So I have a fun one here. Let's see. It's God bless you. Do you guys say God bless you when you sneeze?
No, I say
No.
Gesundheit.
Because you say
Say
Gesundheit.
Gesundheit.
Gesundheit. Now here, let's see what this guy says.
If you sneeze and I say God bless you, the only thing you should say is thank you. I don't need to hear all of this. How did you get in my house? Why is my window broken? I'm calling the police. Ain't nobody got time for that. Be
I'm sorry, I saw that and I thought it was funny. How'd you get in my house? All right.
yeah.
Here's this guy. This guy is popping on social medias. He's got like a Dr. oh my God, don't mention that guy. Captain Disillusion. I made a Freudian slip there.
Dr. Disillusion?
Yeah, no, yeah, that's something even worse. So yeah, let's watch this guy. Here we go. Oh. So she's saying she's pouring out hot water. And it's freezing because it's that cold.
Toronto, and this is what the weather looked like when you recorded this video.
That's so fake, it's ridiculous.
21 Fahrenheit or negative 6 degrees Celsius. I found the same kettle that has a triangular spout, and the cross-section area of it would be 0.5 times the height of the triangle times the bottom side, which would be 1.5 centimeters square. The speed of the water as you're pouring it is 1 meters per second. Multiply that by the area, and we get the volume flow rate to be 150 centimeters cubed per second. Then we multiply this by the density of water at 1,000 kilograms per meters cubed, and we get the mass flow rate, which is the mass of water leaving the kettle every second. For the water to turn into ice, we need to remove two components of heat from it. One for cooling the water from 100 to 0 Celsius, and another for changing the phase of the liquid from water to ice. The amount of heat we need to remove to get from 100 to 0 can be calculated by multiplying the specific heat of water by the difference in temperature, which will be 420 joules per gram. For phase changing, we need the latent heat of fusion, which is 334 joules per gram, which means in total we need 754. Multiply this by the mass flow rate we calculated, and this means we need a continuous 113 kilowatts to freeze that small stream of water. Now this is the formula I'm using to see how much cooling the air of the rooftop of your apartment was providing. H is the heat transfer coefficient, and I'll be kind and assume it's 100 watts per meter squared Kelvin. A is the surface area of the water room, which is 314 centimeters squared, and delta T is the temperature difference, which is 106 Celsius. The simple math here shows that convection can only remove 0.3 kilowatts every second, but you need 113 kilowatts for the water to turn into ice, which is 340 times bigger, which means your video is not real. That was a fun way of doing it, but if you look at this stream, I don't understand why some of the water decided to freeze and some of it is just falling to the ground.
Anyway, this guy does all that kind of stuff. It's pretty fun.
That's fun.
So it's like, little debunks with obnoxious math.
With math.
Yeah. Big nerd energy, which is
Someone
fun.
asked,
Like
is there a minimum age to attend Nauticon 2025? There is. It's 3 months old.
Yeah.
No one younger than 3 months.
That's right.
Are allowed to
Very
attend.
strict.
It is family friendly.
Yeah.
I will not promise you that no one will ever swear, but come on, who cares?
I mean, we're not going to get that crazy.
No.
Yeah. There's not going to be any
We're not that
full
effing
frontal
crazy.
nudity or anything on stage or anything.
No.
Yeah, we
That's all.
basically just finished our list of the different segments that we're going to be doing last night. It came out very, very good. We came up with a lot of new stuff, and now I am assembling the schedule, which means I'll probably have it up pretty damn soon, so you guys can check it out.
It's going to be fun. A lot of fun stuff happening.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to that. Yeah, I mean, I look at a video like that, and I'm like, people make these fake videos. Clearly, it's CG to people who, can look at things like that and instantly know, yeah, that's not happening. But I wonder how many people see the original video and believe it, And I think, how cold would it actually, this is what I was hoping this guy was going to say. How cold would it actually need to be? Not to, first off, building that spiral, no way that thing is going to work like that. It's not going to stand up. I highly doubt that's possible to do. But how cold would it be?
It's not just about the temperature. It'd have to be damn cold to answer your question. It's also just about the rate of heat transfer, right? And so it also is about the medium. How quickly could the surrounding air conduct away that heat versus, there's like going to be radiation versus conduction, et cetera. So, it would have to, freeze as it's falling through the air. So air's a good insulator of heat, actually.
Yeah.
It's not it's not a great conductor.
It's not the best
of heat.
way to do it, yeah. Apparently somebody just wrote an amazing
dissertation from Facebook. Thank you. Somebody, what was it? What was the senator that was grilling them? Michael Bennett.
Yeah.
Or Benet, Democratic senator.
Steve, what's our rule on full nudity for attending?
No.
You could be fully naked under your clothes.
Under your clothes, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yes.
I mean,
you want to
look,
come commando, that's up to
we
you.
encourage it. Yes. You will get arrested.
Yeah. I mean, being that this conference has such a heavy focus on socializing and meeting new people and having fun with the community, I don't think that would be the right way to go.
It's not NaughtyCon.
Yeah.
It's not
NaughtyCon.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on to some other stuff. So Trump signed some executive orders, which we could look at, specifically restricting transgender access for people under 19.
Of course.
So gender-affirming care, including puberty blockers, hormone therapies, and surgeries. I mean, this seems like it's all that, they're doing the transgenderism on your kids. So when you bring them to school and blah, 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 nonsense, whatever, fear-mongering. What is the standard here, Steve?
So this is a complicated question.
Yes.
And, from the beginning, like David Gorski and I, and written about this, our position is not that there isn't a conversation to be had about the standard of care for transgender care and how well that standard is being adhered to, and zooming in on very difficult, nuanced questions of like balancing false positive with false negative and how you go from the evidence to best practices, et cetera. That's where the conversation should be had. The problem is the people who are arguing that they're doing too much transgender care too young are all the same people who are saying that gender doesn't exist and if sex is strictly binary and that predators are pretending to be trans to scam on girls in bathrooms, and they're just doing it to cheat at sports, right? It's like, no, I mean, you can believe that the science pretty clearly shows that there's biological sex is not strictly binary. There is a fuzzy line. You could argue about what those numbers are, but not everybody cleanly falls into a strict binary. You can recognize that if we're going to divide up humanity into male and female for certain specific social reasons like prison, sports, bathrooms, there are going to be people who are fuzzy in the middle, right? Who are going to. There's no one simple criterion. Right?
Yeah, but they're not important, Steve, so we're just going to ignore
them.
Right.
You could believe all those things, and also say, but the question of transgender care is freaking complicated. Yeah. So we could say a couple of things. There are published standards, and those published standards are thoughtful and reasonable. And generally speaking, and I also have looked into like the standards that are applied by certain specific clinics. I'm very familiar, for example, with the criteria used at Yale. So like the Yale gender clinic, no surgery in minors, period. You have to be 18 years or older to have surgery, which I think is perfectly reasonable. I don't understand the rush in terms of surgery. That you could certainly just delay any surgery until 18. In terms of hormonal therapy, which there is a clock ticking, so it's not the same issue. There is potential harm to waiting because kids go through puberty, and then that complicates everything. So the published standards are that people with gender dysphoria need to have a clear, consistent, and long-standing criteria for gender dysphoria. They have to be very clear. You start with the least invasive intervention. You have to make sure that they are comfortable with that before you move on to the next one, and it's age appropriate, right? So those standards, again, these are very, in my opinion, thought out and thoughtful standards. They're fairly conservative, but also allow for gender affirming care for people who really need it, right? So the question is that standard being adhered to consistently? So first of all, no standard in medicine is held to consistently, right? There's always going to be people at the fringe. But it's a matter of where's the center of gravity in terms of gender affirming care in different countries. And that's a difficult question to get at. I've looked at many different studies looking at that, and they kind of are all over the place. There certainly are individual cases where people are getting either, getting medical gender affirming care that it seems like they erred on this, on the side of being aggressive, or they didn't adhere to the standard or published guidelines, or that I don't know why anyone would do surgery less than 18 years old. And that's certainly something you could wait for, but it certainly does happen. So that's where I would like to see the conversation be. If you feel like you need to do gender affirming surgery less than 18, defend that decision, right? Medically, ethically, scientifically. The conversation over steroids is really complicated because it's all about balancing risk versus benefit and, maximizing or minimizing both false positives and false negatives at the same time, but they're usually at cross purposes. And so exactly how do we do that? But that conversation has been so poisoned by the political circus and ideological circus around this question that it's like almost impossible to really have publicly, Not saying you can't have it within the confines of a medical clinic or a medical context.
I have a question.
Yeah,
When they do hormone therapy,
yeah.
is it bad? Is it bad for you?
So there's two types of hormone therapy. There's puberty blockers, which just delay puberty,
Yeah.
and then there's cross-sex hormones. So the puberty blockers, the evidence suggests that's relatively benign. It delays puberty, and you can come off of them, and you'll still go through puberty. But the question is always about like, well, how much evidence do we have, right? And the critics will all say, well, we don't have any double-blind placebo-controlled trials, which is ridiculous because you can't double-blind whether or not somebody's going through puberty.
Yeah, how would you do?
Right. So it's applying the wrong standard to that particular intervention.
Yep.
Like there's tons of surgery. We don't have double-blind placebo-controlled trials for tons of medical interventions where it's just impossible to do that. Like pretty much all surgery, right? You cannot double-blind whether or not somebody had surgery done on them. So we have to do other kinds of research, get evidence other ways, and you could then criticize it because none of it's perfect. But if you have to, this is where it gets complicated. If you're fairly and objectively looking at all of the evidence that we do have from a risk versus benefit perspective, what is the best judgment about the best care in terms of those kind of hormonal interventions? And that's, again, I'm not an expert specifically in that. I'm just reading what different experts are saying, reading the published standards, et cetera. But people who criticize it generally don't know what they're talking about, right? Like a lot of the public discussion and criticism about it are from people who are not physicians or who just don't know what they're talking about, or they're not experts in gender-affirming care. They haven't been treating that patient population. And so they don't necessarily have a nuanced view of the risks and benefits here. They're just fear-mongering about mistreating kids, right?
So they use the first off, Tim Tully, thank you for that. Really appreciate it. And Tim Tully says Godzilla to people when they sneeze. I like that.
Godzilla.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you give the puberty blockers, and then
Well, so this is what the standard of care is.
go ahead.
First, if you determine based upon your thorough assessment that they do have gender dysphoria, you suggest social transitioning first. If they do that, they choose to do that, and then their gender dysphoria persists, and they are comfortable with that, and they want to take the next step, when they are at an appropriate age, then you could recommend hormone blockers to delay puberty. Then you do that step. That's another couple of years, 2, 3, 4 years. If they feel comfortable with that and they are still confident they're on the right track, this is who they are, this is what they want to do, then you could recommend cross-sex hormones.
Now, is that bad for you?
Well, it depends on what you mean by bad for you. It has some effects that are permanent.
Okay,
right?
like what?
Well, like you probably will be infertile at that point.
Yeah.
If you decide to go that route. Although, as I've spoken to a lot of trans people or read their articles and I've seen them speak about this, and the part of their reaction is, I'm not sure why everyone else is so obsessed with our fertility. Like this is, it's like what you. There's a lot of situations that we do where people that could result in infertility, or not everybody wants to have kids. People make personal decisions about whether or not they want to have children eventually.
But is there anything negative? Like, does it hurt their kidneys or liver or any of that stuff?
There's no. Again, but the question is, how much have we proven that it's safe, right? So there's no big known risk to doing that, but we of course need more. There's not like there's a huge population out there, so it's hard to have lots of big giant studies to know that it for sure that it's safe. Okay. So it's a matter of how much evidence do we have, and is that enough evidence? And then if you feel comfortable with that and you want to cosmetically, anatomically transition, in my opinion, that should wait until you're 18. Yep. That's what a lot of clinics use that standard. And I think that's a reasonable standard to use. But again, it's only after you've gone through each step. And again, your gender dysphoria has been persistent and strong and unequivocal throughout, and not explained by some other coexisting issue like other psychiatric illness or whatever.
Do we know what happens if you stop taking it? Like, let's say someone did all that, got into their 30s, and then just stopped taking the hormones. What would happen?
Yeah, well, they will revert.
They start to shift back.
Yeah, start to shift back.
Wow. It's unbelievable.
Because you have to combine the blockers with the cross-sex hormones, right? So if
Yeah.
you just stop that, then it's like you're doing the hormone therapy the other way, right?
Yeah, but you got to give them enough to like supersede what's already going on in your body, right? So the blockers like will what?
So yeah, so if you're like a male transitioning to a trans female, you want to block the testosterone and take estrogen,
right,
right?
Okay.
Or vice versa.
You can't have the both of them going strong at the same time, right? You wouldn't want.
Why would you do that?
I don't know. I'm just saying.
Yeah, you usually don't do that.
Okay.
Now, people were asking, like, what else are puberty blockers used for? And would this, act or executive order influence that, access to that?
Probably.
From what I've seen online, it says doctors sometimes use it for prostate cancer, breast cancer, and endometriosis.
Yeah.
And maybe there's other issues. So, like, will this also affect supposedly cisgender people trying to get that?
I mean, just the supply?
Just like the access to puberty blockers, right?
No. Well, I've not heard of that being an issue.
Yeah.
We don't have enough of these drugs. So,
Right.
and that's a solvable problem.
Yeah.
The pharmaceutical industry usually adjusts their production to meet demand, and that's a moving target all the time, because medicine changes all the time.
Yeah. Okay, so
Right.
that is there. So that's all the only executive order I was like.
But here's one
people
thing:
were sending it
the
to me.
person who should be deciding these complicated medical questions
right.
about gender-affirming care is not fucking Donald Trump.
Right.
That's the one thing that's absolutely clear. This
Well-
is not a decision that should be imposed upon the medical community by politicians who are grandstanding. It should be made by experts who are having honest, good faith discussions about risks and benefits.
Right. I mean, it's not even really. It's the Project 2025 Heritage Foundation. So he's just following what they're telling him to do. I guess is the.
Yeah, but all the
general
people that
sense.
voted for him on Facebook said that's all bullshit, and he's not going to do anything in Project
well,
2025.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, can we move on to
Yes,
something that's more fun and
Well,
positive?
I don't know if this is positive, but this was somebody tagged us in this about their NIH funding suspension. It's
Okay.
a little bit longer. It's a little insider baseball that we could maybe watch.
This is an absolute disaster.
This is going to be an interesting one. So let's watch this.
So I don't really make content like this at all. Check my other videos; they're so silly.
Oh, this one's really quiet. Hold on.
But I needed to talk about something that I have just not seen anybody talk about a lot, and kind of what it means going forward. To give some context, I am an immigrant. I was born in India, but I grew up in America. I went to MIT for undergrad. I went to Duke University for grad school, where I studied public health and international public policy. I went back to Ohio to do medical school at The Ohio State University, and then I did my neurology residency at WashU in St. Louis. During the height of the pandemic, I moved back to Boston to finish my subspecialty training in neurocritical care during the COVID pandemic. And after I graduated from that, I was offered to stay on at Mass General Hospital as an attending physician and neurointensivist. For doctors who work at hospitals that are affiliated with universities, so Mass General is affiliated with Harvard Medical School, these physicians are called academic physicians, who are pretty different than physicians who work in private practice settings or at for-profit hospitals. And why we're really different is that a lot of us do research and we also see patients. And our research informs our clinical practice, and our clinical practice informs our research. And that's really true for me because my research is with patients and specifically stroke survivors. So to have this job, which I describe as my dream job to everybody that I meet, I am so privileged and lucky and grateful to do this. Being a doctor means so much to me. And being a scientist and being a doctor is like icing on the cake. For over a year, I have been working on writing a proposal to make care better for people who have had a stroke. And I am a hard worker, but I have worked so tremendously hard on this specific grant. And this grant was going to be sent to the NIH, the National Institutes of Health, for review. And They were supposed to meet tomorrow on Monday to discuss my proposal and say if it was good enough to get funding. And the funding that they provide doctors like me is so crucial because half of my salary comes from being a doctor seeing patients, but the other half has to come from research funding. And this is true for all doctors who work at places like Mass General or the Mayo Clinic or any other sort of big university affiliated hospital. And if I don't get funding, I can't stay here. And while that would be a huge bummer for me, I would still be fine. I could go and take a job in private practice or for profit and make like more than double my salary here, but I would personally be really unhappy. But the bigger implications of this is that I'm just one person and my research isn't going to win Nobel Prizes, but this would impact so many different types of scientists. And the direct impact of that is if we can't do this work because it costs money to do this work, then we won't advance scientifically in so many different spaces, but specifically in healthcare. So the current administration's decisions to cancel the Department of Health and Human Services as well as suspend the NIH has implications that are so far beyond an individual or one institution, but they will impact the direct lives of all Americans. And if we don't sort of say to resume these really important organizations, then the health of our country and possibly the world is at stake.
Mm-hmm.
There are so many decisions that have been made in the past week that impact the lives of people even more directly. The immigration changes, the communities of people in the LGBTQIA space, people who have worked in government organizations that are now just canceled, have way bigger impact of the consequences of the administration's decision making. But this one may not happen right away, but its impact would be to everybody, regardless of your beliefs or who you voted for. And I think that we all need to speak about it because it's going to impact all of us soon.
Yeah, this is, the absolute recklessness and thoughtlessness of this sort of just stop everything, pause everything, et cetera, is just really so irresponsible. And this is just one tiny slice of that. So academia and research and everything, as she was describing, like her tiny slice of that's what it is. Like you are constantly surviving from one grant to the next. That's a lot of what you do. I don't do this. I support myself entirely with clinical activity, but I have a lot of colleagues like Dave. I know David Gorski does this. Where you're basically surviving from grant to grant, and you're building a program. You're doing your research, et cetera. And so, just like pausing this is not benign. This is, when you erode out like the infrastructure of academia and research, et cetera, this is not something that you could just flip back on like a switch. I know some of them, they canceled meetings, review meetings that took months to put in place, and they will take months to redo. It's not like, oh, don't meet this week. We're going to put that on pause. You can get together next week. It's like, no, these are all working professionals that hammered out this schedule, and it takes months to schedule this kind of thing.
Well,
it's incredibly disruptive.
It's not just that. I mean, it's total chaos. Right?
They've created absolute chaos and uncertainty.
It could set people's careers back.
And then, same thing, just pulling out of the World Health Organization. The U.S. provides, I think the figure is 20% of the budget for the World Health Organization. So these are the things that have downstream effects. Is all of this going to immediately affect your life? No, but the U.S. does a lot of research. Part of staying ahead of the rest of the world economically and technologically and everything is because of the amount of funding that we do and the infrastructure that we have for academia and for research. And when you start to erode that, it takes years for the effects to be felt. But 10, 20 years from now, are people going to go, oh, we would have had far more cures for stuff if it weren't for this? Yes, people who know how things operate and who know the history will know that, but the general public won't have any awareness of how much shittier everything is because of all the infrastructure and investment that's being eroded away right now. But that's what's clearly going to happen. And, it is absolutely despicable, and it's completely unnecessary. It's a completely unforced error.
But Steve, they can't grandstand unless they do stuff like this. It's
because you have an anti-intellectual ignoramus with this much power, and it's so many problems at once. First of all, the president should not have this much power. Right? Presidents were never meant to have this much power, but for various reasons that has been ceded to the executive branch over time. And now Trump is doing everything he can to maximize that. This is sort of the unitary executive kind of theory, whereas the president has all this power. We didn't want to have a king, but that's apparently what we're getting. The fact that the Senate is going to approve RFK Jr. just proves that's the case. Yeah. They're basically saying, do whatever you want. Our advice and consent power, we're going to just bow down before you and completely throw away our own responsibilities. There's no checks and balances. Do whatever you want. And that's basically what's happening now. So it's the combination of that meeting a populist, moment in just world politics, really not just the United States, with a uniquely ignorant, and prideful and childish person, the most unqualified, unsuited person for the presidency I can possibly imagine. Seriously, it's just, and there's all those things are coming together, and this is what you get: utter chaos, completely unnecessary chaos. But apparently that's what a huge chunk of people wanted. Yeah,
they couldn't be happier. I mean, you know what? We're talking too much about this stuff.
Yeah.
It's like it really is like it is important, and a part of me really wants to dive in and get in there, but I mean, we are just entering the maelstrom right now.
Right.
And I'm like, I just feel like I got to save some of myself,
Right.
Right,
and
Steve?
the thing is, like, a lot of like the funding pause was paused by a judge. The firings, of the inspectors general is being challenged. So a lot of this stuff's not going to happen.
Nope.
But that he's constantly pushing and probing to the limits.
Yeah.
But it just creates fear, uncertainty, chaos, even when it doesn't ultimately go through. And that's not a good environment. The so-called pro-business Republican Party, this is the most anti-business thing you can do. Businesses hate uncertainty. They don't, when everything feels uncertain, you don't invest.
Yeah, of course not.
Right? So you want to create, there is stability, and confidence is valuable in and of itself. And they're completely throwing away all of that, just because they think their mandate is to come in and disrupt everything. That really wasn't their mandate. But but that's how they're interpreting their mandate, without any consideration for the downside of for that kind of reckless disruption.
And I think what it'll be like, I'm guessing here, but my gut is telling me like there's so much slash and burn going on.
Mm-hmm.
But
this is week one, Jay.
I know, but it takes a while for it to really manifest, and then we're going to start to see these telltale signs.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe your doctor's office closes because like that woman, like the funding is not there anymore. Maybe things aren't available.
When we get hit with the next pandemic, it's like, well, if the U.S. were still involved in the World Health Organization, would that have happened? Would we have nipped that in the bud? Mm-hmm. You might not be able to prove one way or the other. It's all probability. It's like global warming. Did this fire result from global warming? You can't say that, but we do know that they're more likely and more common because it's setting the conditions for it. So he's just creating the conditions for the next pandemic, and then he'll blame whoever. They'll blame China on it or whatever. But that's what's happening. That's demonstrably what's happening. He's going to be setting back the cause of mitigating global warming for 4 years. We'll see exactly how that's going to play out. That's also a complicated question. We've talked about that on the show before, but certainly.
So this just came in, by the way.
Yeah, we're going to be
White House budget
rescinds the federal funding freeze.
after,
Yeah,
after the the massive backlash.
After the massive backlash, right? They'll find something else to disrupt.
I'm sure. Yeah. But
So, again, in 20 years, 30 years, I mean, will we be able to say like how much worse things are because of, the Trump's policies?
I mean, it's going to be hard to like draw straight parallel
Yeah.
lines, but still, I mean, there's going to be real effects, right? I mean, gas prices, grocery prices, job loss, all of these things. Like there's just put your hand in the marble jar and pick out some, and a lot of things are going to happen because of these decisions that we can't forecast. And again, the guy's been in office, just over a week, and he's tipped over the apple cart in a significant way already. This isn't like a metered, let's make good decisions thing.
The CIA did not confirm that COVID came from a Chinese lab.
Yeah.
What they said was that it's more likely that it was a lab leak than a animal spillover. But they said that their confidence in that was low. So they basically said, we have no idea. We're just slightly more confident that it's lab leak than zoonotic. Meanwhile, the scientific community is saying this was not a lab leak. This was zoonotic. Right. So you have these scientific health experts who saying this was zoonotic. Then you have the intelligence community saying we have no idea, but we would put it slightly more likely, but with a very low confidence that it was a lab leak. They didn't confirm anything. They have no new knowledge. There's no new information. Right. There was no new analysis. They just decided to come out there with this information. That was it. Because they've been basically being saying officially we don't know. But they decided that they didn't want to say that. They wanted to say that it was slightly more likely that it was.
And this is a week into Trump's, presidency. Someone who says it's for a lab leak because he's, hates
whatever.
China.
Low confidence means they have no fucking idea.
Yeah, it seems obvious that they're just doing it to appease the boss.
Right.
I mean, I don't know.
But it is disturbing that gets translated in the public consciousness to that they confirmed it, as if they have some new knowledge or new information about it. They don't.
It does seem like
nothing
just
new.
Pure
nothing
confirmation
new.
bias from people who want to see what they want to see, or whatever. Anyway, okay, let's see. What else can we move on to? So there's maybe another AI thing, and then we can get into the TikToks if we want to get into that. So this is a fun one, maybe, and we could do it live. We'll do it live. All right, let's see what she has to say. Hopefully this isn't too loud, everybody.
Go on to ChatGPT.
Okay.
Here's the music.
Type in,
the music, you know it.
Are there current initiatives in place to purposefully block human beings from recognizing their limitless potential and power? And then, don't forget to ask, tell me more.
All right, so hold on. Let me figure out what the exact one was.
Limitless.
Yeah, hold on. I forget what the actual quote was.
They're limitless.
Recognizing they're limitless. All right, here we go. ChatGPT. Let's do this together, everybody.
All right, and let's do it.
Are there current don't look at my spelling if I write it wrong. Initiatives in place to currently block human beings from, was it recognizing
their limitless potential?
Limitless potential. Okay. And then she said, tell me more. It's like, there are no formal global initiatives explicitly designed to block human beings from recognizing the limitless potential. However, systemic factors such as economic inequality, restrictive education systems, corporate interests, and certain political structures can create barriers that limit access to knowledge, opportunities, and personal growth. Okay, so tell me more. That doesn't. I feel they might have updated it. Okay, this is just it's just listing out there's nothing secret. What does she want? Is this is this a trick to get us to learn about our government? I don't trust it. Cultural conditioning.
I mean,
anyway, I
this
don't know.
narrative is so tiresome.
Really,
it's just so tiresome.
Just more of the same bullshit.
The whole conspiracy narrative is just so childish and ridiculous. First of all, we have massive investment in this country in order to make people, like for education, et cetera, to help people achieve more. You know why? Because when people in our society achieve more, our entire society benefits. This is actually good for the nation. If you're in charge of a country, you want your people to be wildly successful. You don't want to. You want to keep your own people down, repress your own people. So why? So other countries can outcompete you? I mean, it's ridiculous. It makes no sense.
Ian, can you play that music?
It's also
on here?
premised on the note that we have limitless potential. There's nothing is limitless.
Yes. All right. Where's the sound?
All right, so you get that ready. I'm gonna go prep. We're gonna make that video, but my version of it.
Uh-oh. What is he doing? Where's he going?
I don't know what he's doing.
What are you doing, Jay? Oh, he's having fun. All right, we got the music ready, so. Watch your mic. Wait a minute.
But that is the TikTok narrative, though.
That's true.
The TikTok narrative is they
I missed the end part.
are gaslighting you. They're keeping you down. They lie about everything. They control everything. You know, that's just taken as a given. If anyone discovers anything good, they will kill you to keep that from coming to light. Because they don't want anything good to happen.
All right, I'll zoom in on you. Here we go. Jay's having fun.
We're gonna have a guest.
Jay's having, we have a guest in studio right now, everybody. If you. Okay, I will try to. It's only 16 seconds. All right, here we go. And welcoming our
after
guest.
the build-up.
The Great Awakenator. Go ahead.
The Great Awakenator.
Are you aware that multi-dimensional, cross-sectional beings are watching us through the zit cream that we put on our faces every night? And that those beings can contradict anything that you feel and believe by waving flags in front of our faces that are invisible. And those flags come from China. And the Chinese government is completely aware of everything that you want to do via the drones that they have circling your house right now. And are you aware that every single time that this music plays, whatever the person is saying is complete and absolute bullshit? Just think about it.
Including that?
Of course, it's all bullshit. It's all bullshit. I'm so tired of those videos because it's not even what they say, it's the music.
Yeah, it's all music. Jay improv session. Yep.
I mean,
Jay's a theater
look at my
kid at
coat.
heart. Oh, look, you
This
see
is pretty
through.
cool. Are you aware that I am invisible right now? God damn. I mean, TikTok has burned a part of my soul.
Yeah.
Legitimately. I'm glad that we're here. I love these discussions that we have, but like watching TikTok and have becoming so aware of what they do, you know, what people have done on this platform. Yeah. It really, you could play that music and everything sounds more intense. But it really is such a disappointment. And really what's happening is between bad news reporting, misinformation, disinformation, and then the attitudes and behaviors that people have on social media, we're really circling a drain now that I wonder if it's ever possible for us to pull away from. You know, and here we are at the beginning of a presidency that so far, you know, guy's been in there 7 days or something, you know, a week and a half. Like it's so many weird things have happened already, right?
Mm.
And nobody that voted for him, apparently, as I could see, is, you know, nothing is impacting them. Nothing is changing minds. Like it's just, you know, it's going to go on and on and on and on. And maybe at some point it gets so crazy that some of the people who were, you know, not 100%, but like maybe some of them will.
Jay, they just wanted
slowly.
cheaper eggs.
I mean, did it really boil down to that?
Yeah,
I mean,
I think
that's the thing
so.
that
For a lot of
scares the
people,
hell
it
out
did.
of
Not for
me.
everybody. I mean, obviously,
That's
it's
just a
multifactorial.
justification. It's
But there
like,
were some people who just wanted cheaper eggs.
Yeah, I don't know.
And who had no idea how the economy works and how the presidency works.
Yeah, I think there's some people
Or
who are
recent
getting
history.
it, but they don't quite get it.
They don't quite
They
get
get it, but they don't get it. It's a weird cognitive dissonance.
Right. And I mean, Trump and his people are saying now, like, we're not going to bring down the price of eggs.
Right.
That's not happening.
I know. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, he says it, and then after he's president, or
like
after he wins the election, he goes, "Oh, it's actually really hard to affect the grocery prices." I'm like, and the fact that
I mean, there isn't a lever in the White House labeled the price of chicken eggs, and you could just move that lever and lower
Pull
the price.
The lever.
Down.
Wrong lever.
Yeah, it's gonna, guys.
Name that reference, chat, if you will.
The thing that really freaks me out is, like, this is not only going to be really hard and mentally damaging, as all of us voyeuristically watching this slow motion train wreck, but this is also affecting people from every time I see people make comments and they're like, Trump is trying to take over my country. This is, people that live in Canada are going to be affected by the tariffs. People from Mexico living in Mexico trade the tariffs. It's going to affect the world. This is what I was saying last week when we were talking about people who voted for Trump and are they responsible. It is something that affects everyone. Like, if you want to hurt yourself by making bad medical decisions for yourself by buying into pseudoscience, but we just voted in somebody who is going to have such a long-term horrific effect on most of the people on the planet. Like, that to me is just mind-blowing. And we can't do a goddamn thing about it. Like, literally, there's nothing we can do. That time came and went.
Well, in another year and a half, we could vote for...
if there's any power left,
there will be
in those departments,
Yeah.
So all right, so Steve, you're going to
fight the power.
Switch over.
Right.
Hey, man, look, I'm trying to control. I'm trying to control, like, where my mind goes and how dark I let things. I try to limit how much darkness I'm going to absorb a day. It's working really well. Like, I'm feeling better in a lot of ways because I'm not doom scrolling and arguing incessantly and all that. But I have to keep up with the news, and I'm happy to engage here and talk about these things. But it's going to be bad, and it's going to be hard, and all the more reason that we need to have our safe communities and surround ourselves with like-minded people, to not be steeped in the conflict and in the insanity all the time. Go to Nauticon, meet some good people.
That's true.
That is the solution to all your problems. Go to Nauticon.
How could you do that? You go to nauticoncon.com and then actually bring
nauticoncon.com.
Nauticoncon.com.
If you go there, you will get cheaper eggs.
Yes.
The price of gasoline will drop.
Yep.
Right.
There will be no more pandemics.
Yeah.
One free egg with that's not true. One potential free egg.
One last legitimate question.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
Should we recommend to our listeners that they stock up on PPE stuff, disinfectants, masks?
So
Yeah,
absolutely. I mean the CDC, right? They came out with they have an ongoing campaign. I wrote about it a few years ago. They said how to prepare for a zombie apocalypse. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
This was the CDC.
That was great, by the way.
Yeah, but it was basically how to prep, right?
Yeah.
And like the amount of prep that we should all be doing at a baseline, and which is essentially, and I do think we need to up it a notch for a few reasons. In terms of like how much do you need to have in the place that you live in terms of food, water, batteries, toilet paper, whatever, and what kind of events are likely to happen over the course of your life. So so now that COVID's happened, we've all lived through it, right? Does it seem reasonable that you should be ready for the next COVID to hit? Of course you should.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Have a little bit. Don't wait till you're down to your last sheet of toilet paper before you stock up.
Yeah.
Keep a little bit of supply in your house. Think about what would we do if like it happened again, and when suddenly like everyone's being told to shelter in place and stay at home. Do I have 2 weeks of food in my house? Do I, whatever. Just think about that. The other thing is you have natural weather disasters happening at a higher frequency and in places that were not previously thought to be at risk.
Yeah.
Almost no matter where you live, you might be stuck. Your town was hit with a flood, like the flood, like 100-year, 200-year flood,
right.
ridiculous thing, where there was one way, I remember, in and out to your house. What if there was 0 ways in and out of your
then
house?
you gotta
Until and of course we know that our infrastructure gets easily overwhelmed by things like that. Or if you have to bug out, like if you're been caught up in the California fires. So a lot of people, have to think now about, all right, what if like the hurricane that hit South Carolina, it hit that mountain town with a flood that has never been flooded before, whatever. What if that kind of thing happens to in my neighborhood, in my town, in my part of the world? It's actually quite reasonable. It could be a flu, it could be a winter storm, it could be a massive hurricane, it could be a flood, it could be a fire. Whatever it is, you want to be part of the solution, not part of the problem.
We should put the wheels on the pavement, though, right? Like, I want to know. There should be like an easy go-to list. Like, buy canned goods,
Sounds like something we could put together.
buy PPE.
As a video.
Isn't somebody talking about that at Nauticon?
Yeah, but that's too far in the future.
We need it now.
Something might happen between now and then.
Yeah, that's right.
Maybe in the next couple of weeks we'll do a video. We should.
This
film
information's all out there, by the way.
No,
it's not like we have to reinvent the wheel.
No, I know. I just want someone to send me the link. That's what I'm saying. Like, I just
go online, man. It's all there. Go to the CDC has it there. They'll tell you they have a page. This is what you should have in your house. They want you to have 3 days of complete independence. I would expand that to like at least a week.
What? 1 week's nothing, though.
I know, but think about it. If you can go a week without, like, in your home without any outside resources, that's pretty good.
What about the power goes out and you can't, everything in your freezer's gone?
Yeah,
because I have
to think about that
quite
too.
a bit of food in my freezer, but that's bad. I have my generator.
You got to eat it all.
But I mean, gasoline. If gasoline becomes scarce, my generator is useless.
Yeah.
So it's all basically, and plus, your pipes can freeze.
Gotta be off the grid, brother.
How about that, guys? This is a really good recommendation I gave Bob recently. Figure out how to drain the pipes in your house in case something bad happens and you need to make sure your pipes don't burst. Figure that out right now. I know how to do it at my house. It's just a good thing to know as a homeowner. All right, I'm going to go. Steve, have fun. I'll see you tonight.
See you tonight.
All righty.
Let's do some tickety-talks.
I like Ian's hat.
Hey, he stole my hat for like a month after I left it at his house. I don't even know what I did.
It had a great time.
It did have a great time. That's good. I'm happy for it. All right, let's play some hold music. Thank you. There we go. All right, see you later.
Oh, wow.
I'll give you a topic to discuss while we're setting up. Let's see.
Talk amongst your friends.
Talk amongst yourselves. The tariffs on Canada for wood, do you think that will lead to California homes being built with concrete and metal instead to hopefully shore up housing so it doesn't happen again? You know what I mean?
I think we should do that anyway.
Yeah, right. But do you think the tariff specifically will do that? Or anyway, go ahead.
I don't know. Who knows? I'm not an economist. But I do think that you can build homes that are fire resistant, resilient. Nothing's fireproof, right? You get it hot enough, anything will burst into flames. But there are building materials you can use that make houses fire resilient, fire resistant. And there's, I don't see why anybody should build a house in California that isn't, up to that fire resistant standard. I know it costs more money, whatever, but this is the whole point of investment. You invest some now, and it pays off in the long term. Certainly wouldn't build, a fire-prone house, in fire area, in a part of the country that can experience the kind of fires we've experienced in the last few years.
Yep.
So yeah, it probably will be. It could be mandated by insurance companies, where they give you like a huge hit on your insurance rates if you don't have fire resistant. It could be mandated by the state. It could, that could be built into the, they have building codes for earthquake resistance.
Sure.
So this is what building codes are for, right?
Just seems like the nanny state telling me what to do.
It is.
Oh, right. Right.
Because you're stupid and you're a toddler.
Oh, right.
And you need an adult to tell you what to do. No, I mean, listen. The whole nanny state thing. Yes, I get it. Sometimes the state overreaches. There are busybodies everywhere. Yes, they sometimes don't consider the overall regulatory burden, et cetera. I agree with all that. But at the same time, we live in a complicated technological world. Right. You can't expect every individual to be well informed enough to make highly technical decisions, 1,000 of them affecting their life. Sometimes it's better just to top down, just regulate it. If something's obvious and necessary, just make it the freaking law. You know what I mean? Exactly. You don't have to have everybody reinventing the wheel for themselves. Do I really want to inspect my own car and whatever? It's just ridiculous. It's just things should just be safe.
Pave your own road outside of your house, and then your neighbor does their road outside. It seems complicated.
Something should be top down. Something should be bottom up.
Yeah.
We should be thoughtful about which is which.
Middle out.
Middle out.
Check that reference. Chat.
Yeah.
Do you know what that reference is?
That's Silicon Valley.
Chat. Okay, that's fine. That's a great scene. I watched it
Everyone
again.
knows.
I was like, oh
Middle
my
out.
God, it's so ridiculous. Somebody was saying it's like Sam Altman had that realization when DeepSeek came out. He's like, oh, fuck, middle out. Like, he was thinking the same, the 6 million, whatever. Anyway, okay. Let's do the drinking ice water. Is that the one you wanted to do?
Let's start with the Mandela effect.
Mandela effect. Very good. Here we go. Oh, you know what? I have to stop recording on these.
Mandela. If it's obvious, it doesn't need to be forced. It's not always obvious, and people have people might make decisions. Like people might decide, I'm not going to spend an extra 20 grand on a fireproof house.
Yeah.
And then you have market forces. Like the market may cater to that, but if you force it so that everyone has to make the right decision, then you can't compete for the bad decision.
That's right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can't undersell, by selling inferior products that are not safe for people.
Plus, common sense is not all cracked
common
up to
sense
be.
Yeah.
It's like, a lot of people are dumb. It's whatever. All right, let's see. Here we go.
She did not have braces. That is the one that freaks me out more than anything else. I mean, I would have bet hard cash that character from the James Bond movie had braces.
Right.
If there was one Mandela effect that would make me go,
You're like, wait a
minute, that's it. But memory just sucks. Anyway, let's get into it.
All right, here we go. All right, let me record.
Have you heard the conspiracy theory around the Mandela effect?
About erasing history?
Yes. This woman gave the example of the Fruit of the Loom logo. She said the Fruit of the Loom logo used to have a cornucopia in it. So, like the basket with all the fruit spilling out. Fruit of the Loom was like, we've never ever had that. And they went so far as to create an illustration of their logo all throughout the years, none of them showing the cornucopia.
That's impossible.
This chick went so crazy about it. Like, she was talking to her therapist, and her therapist is like, chill out about Fruit of the Loom. You're obviously so manic. She was like, I'm not kidding. It has a cornucopia in it, and I'm gonna die on this hill. She went through her whole closet and like friends' closets and stuff, and she finally found a T-shirt that had the Fruit of the Loom logo with a cornucopia.
No way! And she went as far as to go look at the old trademarks and stuff, and found an illustration of the cornucopia.
Dude, what is up with that? Why are they gaslighting us?
The theory is it's a giant experiment, worldwide experiment, to see how easy it is to erase history.
I mean, that's 100% probably a real thing.
Yeah.
And they just had certain brands that opt up for it or something, or if they're like, man.
So be stubborn.
For real.
Yeah.
It's Bernstein Bears.
I don't know if these people are being serious, but the commenters on TikTok seem to think that they are. So what's going on here? Listen, for the record, Fruit of the Loom never had a cornucopia in their logo, right? This has been researched to death. The companies come out with, not only their statements, but you could see their logos throughout the year. No one has been able to provide objective evidence that holds up to scrutiny that there was ever a cornucopia in the Fruit of the Loom logo. The people who have apparently dug up, old shirts and stuff, when you under examination, those cornucopias were drawn in or added later. They were not part of the original logo. They're fake, basically. And the flute of the loom example, I don't know why they're using that as evidence. That was not a corporate logo. That was an album cover where somebody copied what they remembered to be the logo. Again, that was just a Mandela effect supporting another Mandela effect, right? So that was not even Fruit of the Loom. So there's no objective evidence that Fruit of the Loom ever had a cornucopia. Now, I remember it that way too. I'm subjected to the same kind of memory problems that everybody is. But the answer here is simple and known and well established scientifically. Human memory is terrible. We tend to fuse memories, we alter memories, and our confidence in them doesn't predict how accurate they are. That's something that's really interesting. It doesn't matter how certain you are that a memory is accurate. That does not predict that memory is in fact accurate. Now, the cornucopia, that imagery, that icon, literally goes back to ancient Greece and Rome. It's been with us forever, right? You have been exposed to it numerous times you don't even remember. That imagery of the cornucopia behind the fruit is part of your mental, map of the world. And so it makes perfect sense that we fuse that icon, that iconography that we're so familiar with the Fruit of the Loom logo, which is again the fruit and the brown leaves, but not the cornucopia. Easy mistake for our brains to make. It happened to a lot of people. And that's it. That's all the explanation you need. You don't need to hypothesize any magical Mandela effect other than human memory. Now, what's interesting about this video is that it represents kind of a shift in the pseudoscience of the Mandela effect. Now, originally, it was supposed to indicate that we are shifting into alternate realities, right? That you remember this from another parallel universe where it did have a cornucopia. But now the narrative is that this is a worldwide experiment on manipulating our memory of history. That's a new angle to this. So I always like when people say they are doing this or this is sort of a giant worldwide experiment. Who's doing this exactly? Who has the power to do this? Why are they really doing it? What are they actually learning about it? So that's, at the end of the day, a lot of the times when, this is true of the flat earthers and a lot of things, where someone is trying to build a case for some silly conspiracy. It's not about the conspiracy itself. It's about proving that there can be a conspiracy. Because if they can lie to us about the Fruit of the Loom logo and rewrite history, that proves they can do it about more important things. That's what it's really about, supporting this childish worldwide conspiracy, powers that be kind of narrative, which is just so engrossing. It's so woven now. It's so pervasive on social media. That's the narrative. That's why people obsess about the Fruit of the Loom.
Very good.
Very nice.
And,
you got to edit out my coughing.
Yeah, I'll put the cough. Maybe we're shifting into different universes with different conspiracy theorists that think different things.
That's right. Somebody said that, yeah. We were in the universe that thought it was a universe conspiracy. Now we're in the universe that thinks it's a rewriting history conspiracy.
Right. Okay. All right. So that one's fun. I like all the random videos they intersperse with it. Like one is Taylor Swift. I'm like, what does that have to do?
Why do they have Taylor Swift wiping snot off her nose in the middle of that video?
Sick and wiping snot. It's like, okay.
Is there a Mandela effect about that?
I have no idea. Maybe she shouldn't be sick because she's a pop star. All right. Let's move on to this one. So This is the cold water energy something or other. We'll see. All right, stand by chat.
This is not cold water. This is the light, heat,
sorry.
cold. Yeah, that's right. They're all equal nonsense.
During the wintertime, people bundle up and then they go inside and it's turned up to 70, 75 degrees inside.
Right.
So it's we're not getting the cold that actually compensates for the lack of UV light. In nature, whenever it's cold, so whenever it's cold, it's meant to be low UV light, which means when you get cold, it stimulates your mitochondria to make their own UV light. So it's UV and infrared light are such essential nutrients that the body will make itself. It will make it itself if you give it the right inputs. But
that's crazy.
Yeah. Well, what's also crazy is that most people also, even if they live in a more southern latitude, near the equator, if they're sitting inside all day, they're not getting the UV light that's associated with sitting at a warmer temperature. Your body's okay, it's pretty warm, so you're kind of expecting some UV light, but it's not coming. And you're also not getting the infrared light, which is supposed to be bathing you constantly, regardless of the seasons.
Right.
Right.
So we're just creating this very artificial environment our body doesn't know how to interpret the information that's coming in because it's completely novel compared to even just 150 years ago.
Yeah, that is kind of crazy, that claim. It's also completely untrue. I love the claim that our mitochondria make UV light. What is that supposed to mean? Our mitochondria do not make UV light. What is true here is that UV light is important for making vitamin D. It itself is not a nutrient, but it stimulates our skin to make vitamin D. And low light exposure can give you low vitamin D levels. Of course, we have to balance that with the fact that UV light can also predispose to skin cancer, right? So avoiding UV light, using suntan lotion, so it's good for your skin, bad for your vitamin D levels. You need to find a balance in there. But you only need about 15 minutes of exposure to sunlight a day to get the vitamin D that you need. Not a lot. Certainly that's a safe amount. And the notion that the cold weather stimulates your mitochondria to compensate for the lack of UV light is based on nothing. There is no science there whatsoever. It's just a nice story that they wrapped up with the music and whatever, but it is absolutely not true. What you should think about is just getting sunlight every day is a good idea if you can do it. You obviously should avoid excess sunlight, especially when the sun's high in the sky, because there's more UV rays and that can cause not only sunburn, but predispose to skin cancer. This varies with your skin tone. It varies with where in the world you live. If you don't have a roughly good sense of like how much sunlight you should be getting and how much sunscreen you should be using, you could talk to your doctor about it. But no, your mitochondria don't make UV light.
Alrighty. Okay. Would be fun if we were a little bioluminescent. I don't know if that would be bioluminescent if our mitochondria made UV light, but something would see us.
What else do we got? I can't remember. There's a few other ones.
So there was the one from the Chinese medicine that was coming from Red Note, or we have, which was like the drinking water.
Drinking cold water.
There's also healthcare is wrong.
Yeah, that's just stupid.
That was just painful. Yeah, weird space stuff, which was like weird. Submarine cables. That was a flat Earth one.
We could do that one.
Mm-hmm.
The flat Earth
cable.
like
Silly. And then
it's just silly.
There was the moon and sun like it being the same at the sky at the same time or something. And he was like, it's supposed to be night in Australia, but the moon is up here and blah, blah, blah.
You can see the moon during the day.
Yeah, it's like, okay, that's.
If you've never noticed that, you need to look up more.
It's like that works. Yeah. Whatever.
Yeah.
In
We
a
could
flat
do the
Earth.
flat Earth
You
one.
want to do the cable one?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just a quick. This will be a quickie.
Yeah. Here we go. Do this. Doop doop doop. Start recording.
This is the World Submarine Cables Map. I want you to think of South America as 1, Africa as 2, and Australia as 3. Notice how there are no cables from here to here or here to here. You might ask, why is that important? Here's why. The reason you will never see these cables connected is because look how far the distance is from 1 to 2 and 2 to 3, and the vastness from 1 to 3. But some globers will still say, what about these cables here? Oh yeah, you mean the short distance right here? But you might ask yourself, why is that important? Over 99% of the world's internet traffic, including international phone calls and data transfers, rely on cables, not satellites cables. You'll pull up any map of sea cables and you will see that none of these touch because we live on a flat geocentric plane. And of course, TikTok. This is for entertainment purposes.
AI. Anyway, I got
For entertainment purposes. Well, I'm entertained. So I love the fact that they say that you'll notice that they don't send cables from the tip of South America to the tip of southern tip of Africa because it's too long a distance. We send it over a much shorter distance, right, where those two continents are at their closest. And that's because on a flat Earth, the longer distance is even longer. Right? But of course, even on the global Earth, which is the globe, is reality, that's the shortest distance between the two continents. So that's where the cables go. Why would we lay cables over the much longer distance just because they're not as long as on a flat Earth model? That is the really weak claim. The fact they say this is the best evidence for the flat Earth, okay, you really want to make that your best evidence? Because that is some really weak evidence you got there. If you look at the map of the cables, you'll notice a couple of things. They go from population centers, right? They're not going from the place where there aren't people. They're going where there's the highest population density and the shortest distance to connect those two high areas of population density. That's where the cables are running. So this is the argument here. It makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. Of course, that's par for the course because the flat Earth makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. We could talk about it in 100 different ways. Of course, the big way is that it would be impossible for the Earth to be flat because of gravity, right? Gravity collapses things into a sphere. There's no way for a flat Earth to not collapse down into a sphere. So the flat earthers have to say, well, gravity is a myth. There is no gravity. Oh, then why do things fall to the Earth? Well, because the Earth is accelerating at 1g through space. Really? How is that happening? And how, is the entire universe accelerating at 1g? And how would that even work? And what would that even mean? It's nonsensical from the top to the bottom, which is why they have to reach for such completely ridiculous, weak evidence as this cable argument.
Excellent. Okay.
All right.
Flat Earth. That's good?
That's good.
All right.
We're
Chat,
done.
Got any other questions? Hit us up before
Earth is a mostly a sphere.
Mostly.
It is a
oblate.
Oblate
Spheroid.
it's a lopsided oblate sphere.
That's true. Blah. Who set this up? Crazy. Although the seasons are nice.
But within respectable tolerances, it is a sphere.
What about where Godzilla and all the kaiju live? That's true. Where do they live on the flat
They
Earth?
live in your imagination.
But Jesus counteracts gravity, my guy. I know.
There you go.
He's holding this
You
down.
just got to
Thanks,
just believe in
Jesus.
magic. If you're a flat earth, you just believe in magic.
It's just
That's
always moving. All right. Well, I think we'll probably do a Friday stream, right? I think that's on the books. Or is there something?
I'm going to be on God Awful Movies this Friday.
Aha,
I don't know when
so
that's going to air.
go.
I'm recording it on Friday, but I think I'll be ready by the live stream.
Okay. So, yeah, that might be... Go check out their God Awful Movies
God Awful Movies. It's a lot of fun. Kara's on there all the time.
Mm-hmm. They have... It's a podcast. I don't think they do video. I think it's just audio, so you can check
No, I think
them out.
it's going to be video. I'm going to be on Zoom, I think.
Oh, they are? Oh, cool.
Yeah.
So then, you're going to maybe review a movie. We won't spoil it yet, maybe. Let's see. What else is this? All right. I think we're good. All right. Thanks, everybody. We will see you again.
See you next
Come to
time.
Nauticon,
Thanks, Ian.
Do all the things. Become a patron.
Come to Nauticon.
The end.
It'll be a lot of fun.
Yes, that's
you
right.
get cheap eggs.
The cheapest eggs. We're still working on that. All right.
It's not a guarantee.
Not a guarantee. We'll see. All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye, guys.